You've unlocked a Roundtable.
Welcome to Lost Levels Roundtable discussion of Batman the Killing Joke. My name is Crystal Vine. With me as always is Alex Sandberg.
Hello.
And we actually have a special guest, somebody who I started Lost Control with, a different podcast that we occasionally do.
Very occasionally.
But
very.
Aaron has kind of fought me around recording on Skype multiple times, but it's hard to get him into the same room. But this time we have Aaron Leach with us.
In all fairness, you're trying to record a solid 15 to 20 minutes from my house. Skype seems the way to go.
He raises a good point.
He does.
15 to 20 minutes
until Aaron pays for my Skype recorder.
For my occasional once-a-year podcast guest spot. Throw down for that.
But yeah, so we went to the special engagement of Batman the Killing Joke. Different theaters, obviously, but we all...
Different theaters. I'm going to say I think mine was specialer.
Okay. That makes sense. But this was a special engagement where...
Mark Hamill was at yours, right? He was at yours? Like he was at mine?
Yeah, because there's two Mark Hamills. But no, they did have a intro, which I thought was kind of cool, where they're having like a little interview, like a... Oh, thank you.
It was it was him describing his journey as the Joker through Batman the Animated Series, through the video game series, and now, and kind of the various versions of the Joker and how he's gotten to grow with it.
Yeah, which I liked. I really liked that album because I watched all those special features on the discs anyway. So it's pretty cool to have that as the opening to The Killing Joke, an iconic Batman novel.
And it was a nice way. I know we're more to be talking about the movie itself, but usually when they do these Fathom special events, they do add these little things that make it, I think, it makes it worth going because
right.
You do get a little bit of extra. I mean, I do imagine both of the things that we saw before and after will probably be on the disc. But it's cool to see. Good way to pad out the evening. Especially since the animated the animated films are notoriously pretty much around 80 minutes.
Yeah, they are definitely not a full-length feature movie. But okay, so why don't we get into it? As with all of our roundtables, obviously this is going to be a spoiler-free review at the beginning. We then go to our end credits, and then we go into our spoiler section after that, where we get into the nitty-gritty of it, where we can talk about specific events that happened in The Killing Joke. So, just a fair warning there.
Also, fair warning, I've never done one of these with these guys, so if I let something slip, I'm sure I'll get kicked under the table here and make editing work exciting for Chris.
Right.
But I will try not to.
Yeah, so we don't edit these either. So
we don't what?
We don't edit these. They're raw, they're live. We're doing it live.
Oh, okay.
People are listening right now.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so getting into The Killing Joke, it is kind of broken into two segments, I would say. Safe to say.
The segment that is The Killing Joke and the segment that's not The Killing Joke.
Yeah. It's like Killing Joke is a short comic, a little bit longer than a traditional 22-page comic. I think it's like 40 pages or something.
It's around 60, isn't it?
Is it 60?
Something like that. Well, did you mention Alan Moore?
I did not yet.
Okay. I just don't know if you want to mention the pedigree.
Go for it, yeah.
I mean, it was 1988. Probably should have looked all this up before we started. Alan Moore, I mean, if you're a comic fan, you know who Alan Moore is. If you're not a big comic fan, Alan Moore is one of, the greatest, or at least revered as one of the greatest comic writers of all time, creators.
Right.
You're looking at The Killing Joke, Watchmen. So I mean, the guy has made some good stuff.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I'm sorry? League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yes, V for Vendetta.
Yep.
Did he do From Hell?
That I don't know.
Not maybe.
I don't remember.
I remember a lot of long-windedness, so it felt like an Alan Moore book. No. But no, yeah, so huge pedigree. I mean, the anticipation for this, and also the anticipation for the fact that Kevin Conroy back as Batman, Mark Hamill back as the Joker, Tara Strong back as Batgirl,
Right.
and Bruce Timm in the director's chair. Bruce Timm of, Batman, the animated series creation fame, and who pretty much had the biggest hand in creating the DC animated comics wing as we all know it, with these different amazing movies that they've done.
Yeah, very, very, very true. It's so given all that.
This has all the elements for a great little animated feature.
Yeah, and this is that. All those elements combined is one of the reasons they probably did a special engagement to show this in theaters.
Absolutely. I mean, the anticipation was so good that they had the tickets go on sale. Most theaters had 2 showings. They sold out rather instantly.
Yeah.
And many theaters added showings. So I mean, that's how psyched people were for this event.
Yeah, same thing with me. Like, I didn't get tickets the first go around. I was pissed because I was checking every day. They didn't go on sale, and all of a sudden they were on sale and they were gone. I'm like, holy shit. So I didn't plan on going, and then you just randomly texted me like, hey, they opened more theaters. So I checked the theater that we always go to, and sure enough, they had an extra theater. So they were playing three separate theaters playing Killing Joke for the 7:30 event.
Yeah, I mean, the theater that I went to, oddly, was like one of the only ones that started with just one showing. Like, most places had like a 7:30 and a 10. Mine, for whatever reason, didn't have a 10. We got into that original 7:30, and then, they added another 7:30, and then they finally added a 10 after that. So, I mean, demand was high for these tickets. I mean, it's in terms of revered Batman properties, it's up there with The Dark Knight Returns and The Long Halloween, and some of the absolute best. I mean, it's a comic book that is so, and again, without spoiling anything just yet.
Yeah,
doing great. Thank you.
Without spoiling anything just yet, there's an event in this comic that, I mean, because Killing Joke was more or less Elseworlds when it first came out, right? Like, it wasn't in continuity. I don't know if it was Elseworlds, but I don't think it was technically continuity.
You're right.
But the main, I mean, it's not a.
It was like a one-off.
It's not a spoiler to say that about Barbara, right? I mean, that happens immediately. It's how the book starts, more or less.
For the most part, yeah. We've given it enough time. I mean, Killing Joke has obviously been a comic that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, something that happened in this book became canon because it was such a big thing.
Right.
And that's all I was trying to say.
And the idea behind this type of Joker was something that was different at the time, too.
And trying to approach a Joker origin.
Yeah. Which we've seen multiple times now throughout the history of it. But that was one of the first times where you kind of see that origin story of him. And
I didn't see it as a sympathetic origin story.
That's true. Okay, we gave enough background. Let's get into the movie. As I kind of mentioned earlier, it's cut into 2 sections. You have a Barbara Gordon section at the first, which feels like kind of like a one-off story almost. And then they fade to black and reopen on the traditional Killing Joke. Which is, very accurate to the source material, I would say. But why don't we start off with talking about that Barbara Gordon beginning? Okay, for reference now, Aaron, huge Batman fan. I've obviously read Killing Joke multiple times. Alex hasn't.
No, I never read Killing Joke.
Never read it ever.
No.
Never read it. So.
Okay, well, so how did you feel about it there? How it built her character?
Well, at first it confused me because I'm like, was this part of the original Killing Joke? Because I wasn't sure.
It's like my wife was asking me, because she went with me, she's asking me the same thing, like, is this it?
Because, I mean, I'm looking at all the technology and stuff they're using, and I'm like, this doesn't look like it would have been around when this was written. Like, their cell phones and all that. I'm just like, so that threw me. I'm like, okay, maybe they just updated a few things just to keep it somewhat modern and relatable. But yeah, I mean, once it got into the second part, and it felt like a very second part, I'm like, okay, these have to be separate from each other. Like these are not together. It felt very disjointed because of that.
It was, yeah. I agree with that.
It's one of those things where, like, I get that they wanted to build Barbara up as more of a strong female and all that kind of stuff, so that you cared a little bit more about her. And I get that they also, for an audience that maybe doesn't know the relationship between Batman and Barbara, you know,
Right.
they wanted to give Batman a reason. You know, they got into that, they delved into their relationship, which had been touched on in the comics here and there, and in the animated stuff here and there. So I think they were doing that also, yeah, to make you see that, like, well, Batman also has a very personal stake in it. I just feel like it was really unnecessary.
Well, after watching it, I did a little research because one of our friends, Adam from Lost Level podcasts, mentioned to me. He's like, "Hey, how was Killing Joke?" So I talked to him about it. He's like, "Did you read about all the backlash from San Diego Comic-Con?" I'm like, "No, I haven't." And so I looked it all up, and audiences were pissed. They were very
About that being added on?
They were talking about the events that happened in it, regarding which we'll get into the spoiler section. But,
okay.
But certain aspects of the Batman-Batgirl relationship that people hated.
Well, I mean, it was really out of nowhere, and it's that I'm talking about too, where I'm just like, it feels like you're just there to make it seem like Batman's extra super angry because of what's going on now.
Right.
But it's like, you know, Batman's super extra angry about a parking ticket that goes overdue. So I mean, he doesn't need a reason to be super extra angry. And like, you can already assume without adding. I feel like anybody listening is gonna guess already what happened.
Well, you allude to it heavily.
Yeah. You know, because she's already a part of the Bat family, right?
Right.
So I mean, like, you already assume anything happens to her,
Right.
he's gonna be fucking going after whoever does it with a vengeance.
Right.
You don't need this extra thing.
And people hated it. People didn't like the relationship at all. They didn't feel it was believable. They didn't feel that it was an accurate depiction of Barbara Gordon and Batgirl's relationship. So there was a huge outcry for it.
I don't know. I get when I hear about the accuracy aspect. I mean, you can always pretty much go through any. I mean, comics have been around for so long, and as big of a fanboy as anybody wants to assume they are, they've not read everything. So you can generally find, if someone's like, that's so unlike the comics, like, you can almost guarantee you could find a comic that shows something that they're being pissed off about.
Right.
It was the same thing with the everyone being, not to get off track, but with Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of Lex Luthor, you know, is kind of just more mad scientist-y. And there's comics where he's very much like that. I mean, he very much threw his own spin with some of the, you know, kind of our more modern understanding of certain mental illnesses. But I mean, you know, so for, you know, people to be like, oh, it's totally inaccurate of their relationship, it's not totally a fair statement, I don't think. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know if people are like kind of up in arms because of the whole women's rights movements and how it kind of portrays Batgirl in a different light, where it talks about her relationship not necessarily as a strong person. It's more of a need to be Batgirl because of her feelings.
I don't think it's based off her feelings. I think it is her trying to show that she can be strong. And it's not based off her trying to impress Batman.
but I felt like some of the line reads in the portrayal came off very, like, emotion-driven.
Yeah, and even having those conversations she had when she was at the library, and having that her conversation with her friend, talking about the situation and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It portrayed her more of an emotional connection as opposed to a strong, independent woman who could be.
And I don't know if that was just framed poorly in the writing because of the fact that the guy she was talking to very much just assumes it's a normal relationship.
Right.
But at the same time, she says she's doing it for quote unquote the yoga. So it's not because of the trainer; it's because of what she's doing, and she feels right doing it. So I feel like this is more of an idea to empower her to want to do right by the city of Gotham.
But then that gets trumped a little bit later when they do yoga. So I don't know. Like it felt like I get what it was trying to do.
I think we're
okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Beer wise, how we look at?
I'll take a short one.
Go ahead.
Let me try your. Which is better, the naughty brunette or the dirty blonde?
Depends. Do you like craft beers or do you like domestic beers?
Craft beers.
The naughty brunette.
Go with that.
You want that tall one or the short one?
Yeah, it's all.
So I think that's what. Like to me, honestly, this movie. Granted, I'm really happy that it was made. Like super stoked that we finally got to see an animated feature of the Killing Joke. But I feel like it came out at the worst possible time in our society's like movement towards everything because
it does feel a product of the time. The changes that were made. Yeah.
Right. Like this is an Alan Moore movie, story that made sense back in the day, and even he's kind of come out against it at this point. He's like, yeah, maybe.
He comes out against everything.
He does. I take it for that. But at the same time, I feel like this kind of suffers from that because our change, our urge to be so politically correct in our society, and seeing a not strong, independent woman being portrayed where everybody like pictures her as that, it really damaged how people think about this. I think that's where the outcry kind of comes from.
Well, I just think because they didn't have enough faith in the material and in the intelligence of the audience to be like, okay, obviously, like even if you're only a casual fan, you know that Batman isn't picking just anybody to be a member of the Bat family.
Right.
You know what I mean? So obviously there is and you can infer a strength from that. You know, there's an implied strength from her just being on the team.
Absolutely.
You know, so I don't think that they needed to spend all this time and really make the gung-ho point out like, I do it because I want to. It's like, okay, well, whatever your motivation is, like, you're doing it. Batman respects you enough,
Right.
you know.
And I didn't have a problem with that.
Right.
Thank you.
Naughty brunette.
Thank you.
That was the thing. I never really had that issue with it at all. Like regarding the backlash from it.
It felt like they needed to pad it out, or like they felt like they needed to pad it out, and that's another thing I take issue with because the Killing Joke is a thing you're doing as fan service, right? I mean, the fans are the ones that build up the theaters. The fans are the ones that are buying these DC animated movies religiously, getting the limited editions with the toys in them.
That's just you, actually.
Well, I'm keeping that a thing. Which I could go off on a rant on that also, because that process got altered on their end, and I was real pissed. But anyway, but you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason. The fans are the reason these things continue to get made.
Right.
It's not the casual audience. It's not the audience that went and saw.
Last call for alcohol.
I think I'm okay.
All good.
Is it cool if I close y'all off?
Yeah, that's okay.
I'll be right back.
So they're treating the audience as made for as some who want to understand what's going on.
Right. Like,
They need to give us more credit.
I would have been totally fine paying my $15 ticket or whatever the hell it was to go in there and see
The Killing Joke.
60-minute Killing Joke that was just the Killing Joke.
Okay.
Because what I think makes it suffer is you spend when it just flies through the ending. I mean, just breakneck speed through the ending. It really, to me, diminishes the Joker's entire point.
Yeah.
You're like, sure, terrible what happens to Barbara, having to see photographs, but other than that, we don't see a whole lot of what goes down. And I know there's a lot implied in the comic, and the comic isn't super graphic, but if you're going to, in this day and age, if you want to be a product of the time, we're used to a little more super graphic at this point. You could get a little more,
You can say pregnant on TV now. Oh my God.
What?
Yeah.
They still... Do they let them people sleep in the same beds now, too?
I think so. I don't think they're
On
pushing
Fox.
twins together.
Only on Fox.
Only on Fox, yeah.
Only on episodes of Family Guy.
Big eye for it.
Thank you.
And only in cutaways. I don't know. Yeah, it's just one of those things where I feel like it's not treating it's not treating the people who this was made for like the people it was made for.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're right. I think that the end does suffer from that, and the end doesn't work really well.
Super not.
In graphic novel works fine, but actually in live action, I felt like the end didn't
Or
work.
animated?
Or I'm sorry, in animated moving pictures, it doesn't work, and I think that kind of suffered.
I don't know, and I don't even know if it doesn't work altogether or if just the pacing of that ending didn't work.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right, I know what you mean.
Like,
Well, he never knew the ending. So, like, what did you think about Alex?
I've actually, that's kind of a famous ending, so I've seen those last panels. So I knew that part. But it ends super abruptly and kind of jarring.
Yeah, it did end very jarring to me as well.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where they didn't have Andrea Romano on voice direction on this, did they?
I don't know, because
It didn't feel like it. I mean, Andrea Romano does not know how to do bad voice direction, period.
Conroy seemed pretty flat in some spots. Like, I know he has that praise, but a lot of them seemed really flat.
I don't know. It just didn't have, and this was the first thing I said to Aaliyah when we left. I was like, I liked it, but it did not have the impact that reading the comic had.
Oh, absolutely
It
not.
just doesn't.
Yeah.
But that's, again, I'm going to attribute a lot of that to the parts that you wanted to linger on. It doesn't have time to because we spent 30 minutes making sure to show everyone how great a person Barbara Gordon is.
Yeah, but like if I could see why Bruce Timm did it, because he wants to establish it to a larger audience and people who don't necessarily know Batgirl. It's kind of nice to see a Batgirl story where you get to learn a little bit more about her and how her mindset and all that
Oh,
stuff.
but do you?
No, you don't.
I don't feel like we got a lot of that out of that bit.
But I think that was the idea behind it. I don't think it was successful in that idea.
Right.
Right. All right, thank you.
so much.
And I feel like,
And that was my whole gripe with it. I think that if it did make me feel like that as an audience, then it works. But it didn't. It didn't give me the cares or the feels for Batgirl when the tragedy strikes.
well, because because it also, it glosses over those things so much.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. So, what else can we talk about? Like here, you kind of you touched on Kevin Conroy, obviously famous Batman.
Can we talk about specific scenes yet or no?
That'll be in the spoiler section, I
Let's
think.
save that for the spoiler section.
Because there's another scene towards the end to me that I see what they were doing, especially if you stuck around and listened to the music part of it.
Wish we did, yeah.
Oh, Okay.
You see what they were doing, and I just think they whiffed super hard on it.
Yep.
Okay,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know you're talking about too, and I do want to talk about that. So, why don't we talk in the non-spoiler section here? What else do we want to cover here? You said that Kevin Conroy's voice acting was kind of flat in some sections.
Yeah, totally.
What do you think about Mark Hamill?
He did fine. I mean, it's what I expected from him. It's if you watch the animated series, it is pretty much on par with that, I think.
Well, I mean, I think you can tell where he tries to bring it a little darker here and there. I feel like it has that same energy, but he pulls it from a little bit more kind of like back of the throat guttural delivery on some of it.
Right.
You get a little bit of a deeper voice. You don't get as many outbursts of laughter, and you don't get those really like
Playful.
the playfulness, those melodic playful bits where the voice goes up really high and then comes back down, which I think is very indicative of the animated series. But even the video game, he has a little bit more of that. In this, there's not much of that happening at all. It's angry Joker.
He knew that this was a different type of Joker, and he really was very attentive in trying to make sure that he separated those.
He had to match the source material.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you're awesome.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you so much.
I dropped the check off at them, like over there. I was like, hey guys, that's last call. I had just gotten a round of drinks, but they're out of time. And they're like, oh yeah, we're all good. So I like give them that check. It's like, okay, last call. Like it doesn't just mean like you guys are done. It means like I'm freaking done, so I'm trying to go home.
Right.
As soon as I give them the check, they all decide to go smoke a cigarette. I'll just sit here and stare at you guys until you put payment. And literally, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just sit there and stare at them. Hopefully that will like.
That won't be creepy at all.
Awesome. Yeah, you're all set. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You too. So yeah, it's he matched the source material and it totally worked.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree. I thought Mark Hamill did a really good job, and I really liked the introduction that they had, because when he talks about all those types of things, watching him work is just amazing to me.
So funny.
Yeah. It's so awesome just seeing him get into the character and just
He puts his whole body into it.
just killing lines like they're nothing. Like, Jesus, I wish I could talk like that.
If he
Like,
could just use that voice for episode 8, I'm very excited. If the Luke turns to the dark side theories hold up and that's the voice he goes with, fine with it. Fine with it.
do you think he'll have lines in episode 8, or will he just look?
Stare
It's all
intently.
it's all gonna be looks.
What do you guys think of the animation?
It was really uneven.
Yeah.
It's very uneven.
Like, I know this isn't a large-scale production. This isn't like Disney in its heyday. But
no,
it's,
but I mean, even compared to the other DC animated stuff,
Yeah.
I'm assuming R-rated movies, smaller budget.
yeah.
I don't think they had the budget to go nuts with it. I do think that you're not going to recreate a lot of Brian Bolland like in animation. Disney would have a hard time doing that.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
I mean, like,
Dude,
the overall style I didn't mind, but that did seem like there were some corners cut just with the
Right.
some of the background look and some of the movement here and there.
I felt like the style tried to match the classic animated series a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
And overall, I didn't. It wasn't jarring enough for me to pull out of it by any
Yeah,
means.
I didn't think so either, but
Yeah.
it was noticeable.
Yeah. Fair enough.
All right, so what, you guys want to do final thoughts here and then go into a spoiler section?
I think we kind of have to at this point.
All right, fair enough. We'll start off with Alex.
Not having read the comic, as we talked before, the beginning section I think kind of kills the pacing a bit. And once we got past that, it got me more interested and made me really want to read the comic. I'm kind of upset with myself for not having read it before. So it succeeds in that, in bringing the audience and the fans in and getting you interested and excited about the universe more. But there are quite a bit of rough edges. I think need more smoothing out. But I mean, it's not a waste of your time to watch it. It's totally worth seeing. I mean, I'm sure they'll pop on Netflix at some point. I mean, if you're a fan enough, you'll get on
In the kids section, if their usual bullshit version of like where they put some of these things.
Oh yeah,
That's hilarious.
But yeah, it's totally worth the watch.
All right, Aaron.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, I mean, it wouldn't even cross my mind to think it wasn't worth somebody's time to take a look at it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, as a diehard fan, you're gonna like what's there. If you're a fan of the stuff, the Killing Joke, you're probably not gonna like that first half hour. Like, absolutely, I'm like, but what's there at the end, I feel like redeems it enough, you know, to where, yeah, it's absolutely worth watching. You know, I always kind of like try and go back and see which one of the DC animation things that I'm like kind of like what's the best one that they've done so far. So I mean, I don't think this one, you know, holds it up against the Dark Knight Returns that they did, either part of it, you know, or if you watch the whole thing as one piece, certainly does not hold up to that, you know. And I think that's why immediate reaction the fans are going to have, because that's a very fresh in the memory thing, because that was fairly recent.
Yeah, within the last year or two at least.
So when you have that good of an adaptation, and then you kind of get something where it went way far away, like this did, you know, to some extent, I think that's causing some of the negativity. And just with the you know, Conroy and Hamill, you know, you knew we were going to deliver great performances, but I also think Bruce Timm being the director also raised those expectations so much.
Yeah.
You know, that I feel like, you know, it was going to already have a hard time living up to expectations, but then again, so was Batman Year One, and so was Dark Knight Returns, and those both came off incredibly well.
Yeah.
So that said, again, still worth the time, very much. If you're a Batman fan, not a Batman fan, check it out. If you're curious at all, still worth seeing. And if you can find any of the extras, check out some of the extras, because yeah, like what they showed us at the theater was very much worth watching as well.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think that really lended. It made me feel more attached to it, watching Mark Hamill's talking about the Joker and his history of it, and watching him do his voice takes. Really attached me to this more than I would have probably, because for me, I felt that the first part really failed in what it attempted to do, which was a huge bummer for me. I didn't hate it, I didn't like it.
I was just bored through it.
Yeah, it was just there. It was kind of just okay, but in order for what I think what Bruce Timm was really trying to do, it failed in that regard. So they just feel like two separate pieces, didn't go together, didn't flow together at all. Like, I was watching it at one point, and it was like the main bad guy from the first part. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, how does he tie into the Killing Joke? And he doesn't. So it just felt like an episode of a random Batman thing.
And you know, and we didn't even bring that up, but yeah, I mean, like, well, can we talk about it now in this? Finish your thoughts. I'm sorry.
No, talk about it. Go ahead.
Can I say stuff, or?
Oh no, we're not in the spoiler section.
Okay.
All right, so we'll say what you're saying. But yeah, overall, it's a watch, just because Killing Joke is such an iconic thing. But it's almost, to me, I'm really torn about it, because they could have done so much more. They could have done it so much better. Like, as Aaron kind of touched on, Batman Year One is excellent, and Dark Knight Returns is some of the best Batman.
So good.
Like, I just watched that again recently, and it's so spot on to the source material. They did an amazing job with that. So that's why some of my disappointment is with the Killing Joke here, because of that type of thing. They set the bar so high on some of the other things, and they missed it here.
And when you look at those other ones that just really did go like 1-to-1, and in this one, you know, like, well, we got to change it for now times, and that is what ended up hurting it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm saying watch it, but it's not one of those things I highly recommend you must own. I would say just watch it on Netflix, man, when it comes on Netflix eventually. You can wait on this, I would say. All right, so let's see how we can reach everybody, and then we'll go into our spoiler section. So starting with Alex.
You can follow me on Twitter. My name there is Alex Sandberg, AlexSandberg, or email me directly at the website, alex@lostlevel.com. Aaron?
You can holler at me on Twitter, at Fascist Plague. Just how it sounds. That's pretty much it at the moment.
All right, I'm on twitter.com/calmintensity. I also have an Instagram, which is Chris's Calm, which I update more than Twitter for some reason. I don't know why. And if you want to follow us on social media, lostlevel.com is our main website. In the upper right-hand corner of that, we have all our social media links, and we're also on YouTube. So if you're at work, want to listen to something in the background or something, we have all of these podcasts on YouTube as well. So we really appreciate you guys subscribing to our channel there. And the dance music's kicking in now all of a sudden.
It is.
The beat has dropped.
I assume that they cleared the tables off so that we can start dancing on them.
Apparently. But yeah, hang on for the spoilers and we'll be right back. And spoilers.
Spoilers!
Alright, so I feel like this is where Aaron's going to go off.
Spoilers. I didn't know if y'all were supposed to say spoilers.
Oh, yeah, no, go ahead.
Alright, so Aaron, what do you want to touch on?
Well, okay, so the song and dance number.
Oh, fuck, dude. Oh, man.
So, you know, in the comic, it does rhyme.
Right.
It is kind of bouncy like a beat. If you were to read it in your head, you're gonna read it to a beat. I get it. And they do make a point of talking about that in the extra composer stuff we saw.
Right.
And how it was supposed to be the juxtaposition of, and you get this vibe in the comic, it's the juxtaposition of the Joker like at his most gleeful.
Okay.
While he is putting Gordon through the worst possible thing of him seeing photographs of his shot. He doesn't know paralyzed yet at that point, but
right.
But you do as a viewer. Shot, paralyzed, and you know, I think we can always assume sexually assaulted Barbara Gordon.
I think I never really thought sexually assaulted. I just thought that he just did it to demoralize her and to take pictures, and that's it. Like, I never really thought anything more than that.
I feel like there's message boards and forums that get into that argument.
Yeah, it's something that's always been common implied but never quite understood.
Yeah, so I mean, even that is, it's a kind of a sexual, so it's not a rape, but I mean, you're still sexually
yes.
demoralizing somebody.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, while he goes through what looks like an otherwise pretty boss roller coaster ride. No, so I get it. I get the idea, and that idea comes across really well in the comic because you get the juxtaposition of a lot of this imagery.
Right.
And this is where the direction of a cartoon that has to become so tight, and it's just not.
Yeah.
Because the Joker song is catchy. I'm like walking out of the theater going like, what's these like, when you're loony? I'm like, I'm gonna sing that all week long. And like we've seen the Joker at a more maniacal happiness in other things,
right.
in both, again, the animated series,
right.
In Ledger's performance, in Nicholson's performance. I mean, just one example of even Nicholson's performance, who, you know, I think at this point is considered to be one of the lower down on the ladder, although, you know, Nicholson and animated Jokers are somewhat similar.
They are very similar, yeah.
When he gives the dude the hand buzzer to death and just is cracking the fuck up, like, when you're a kid, it's hilarious, but you watch that now and you're like, that's a sick fucking guy. Because he is so, like, amused at himself.
Right.
and you just never get that because it feels like two separate things are going on. I feel like the Joker is singing to me, the audience member.
Right.
I don't ever feel like he's singing to Gordon, and that's where the disconnect is.
That, you know what? That's a very good point because his whole entire plot is to send Morden, make him go, just send him to madness, and
that was my impression of the trailer. That's the only line I remember from the trailer.
Fair enough. But yeah, you're right. I think it's more to the audience.
It's like as an audience member, I'm sitting here going like, oh, here's the musical part, and he's because if you listen lyrically too, it's just talking about what he's doing. It's explaining the plot. Like, I don't feel like that's the exchange you would have. And again, some of it's lifted from the comic, if not all the way from the comic. But I mean, yeah, it felt like two different things going on. I'm watching Torture, but then I'm also watching this song, and they don't seem like they're meshing together. They're butting heads.
There's one thing to say about juxtaposition, but that juxtaposition has to kind of meet somewhere.
Right. So again, understand what they were doing, and it just came off huge whiff for me.
No, I agree.
And then by the end of it, you're like, and again, like I said, yeah, terrible to see that happen to your daughter, but like, that wasn't gonna drive them nuts. Like, there's an episode of The Batman, I feel like, where the detective, it's not Gordon, because I don't know if Gordon even in that. But remember, it's the Montoya, and then it's the other guy that is like almost from like Gotham Central, right?
Yeah,
or like
I know
similar
what you're
partnership. Like, doesn't the Joker at some point kidnap that dude? And I feel like
he does drive him
in that like little bit of a half an hour. Like, he believably gets driven more crazy by the Joker than what we see happen here in Killing Joke. And when you sit there and go like, oh, they did that in the span of a half an hour. Well, this movie spent the span of a half an hour fucking around with Barbara Gordon rather than dwelling on this.
Yeah.
So you don't see that breaking point stuff. It never, to me, feels like it was all in on the let's break somebody. No.
I agree, yeah.
And that's the thing. I think they kind of wanted to go like almost shot for shot with Killing Joke and the source material versus trying to expand it and trying to make it more literal in a visual sense and trying to drive him mad and adding a little bit to it. They really kind of just kept to the source and hoped that would translate well. And it didn't.
And it doesn't, because this is, I mean, that's one of the things where that's the magic of comic books. I mean, anybody, I don't know if you have, but I thought you've read Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics.
No.
Okay. You? No?
No.
Anybody listening heavily can recommend that as well. Scott McCloud. It's a comic book. Okay.
Okay.
But it's about breaking down the medium.
I feel like I've heard about it, but
and so in it, they say, a person dies a million ways in the gutters of a comic. The gutters being is the literal term for the space between panels.
Right.
But that's because your imagination, the worst, most graphic, brutal death happens between the panels. And that's so much of what works in a comic for a sequence like that in The Killing Joke, where your mind can start going like, well, he's naked, and they're kind of dog-collaring him around, and they're showing him this, and they're doing that. And even like the thing with Barbara Gordon, like, we're seeing this, but what didn't we see? How much is not there?
Right.
So when you are now taking that, and you want to go one-to-one, and in real time show us what is happening without, because it felt very in real time. Like, once from him getting captured to the Batman showing up to save the day, it doesn't felt like much time passed.
Right.
It was a span of a song, practically.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to give you one bad day. Well, you gave him like a bad hour and a half. Not even.
Yeah.
You had a solid bad 20 minutes. But like, so because there's so much, I feel like that's, if they wanted to expand in an area, that's where you do it, because you do have because who knows where viewers' minds have gone, assuming what happened to Gordon while he was in the Joker's custody, and we just don't have time for that here, because it's go, 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 and again, we spent a half an hour at the beginning on nothing.
Right. Yeah. They should have realistically, to make this work, they could have removed the 30 minutes, expanded this out to a full feature, 80-minute, and gave it more life.
Yeah.
Because that end, as we kind of talked about, with them just talking and having a joke and laughing and boom, done.
Right.
It doesn't translate well.
Instead, it focuses on building Barbara Gordon as a character as opposed to using her to break a strong character.
Right, and I couldn't agree with more, because the movie's not about Barbara, and they wanted to make it that, and I'm like, and that's why it just felt unnecessary. Like, if you want to build Barbara up, do it in a Batgirl movie. Like, this is much like Batman Year One. This is a movie about Gordon and also about Batman's relationship to the Joker. Now, that's not in Batman Year One, but I mean, for as much as Batman Year One is called Batman Year One, it's a Jim Gordon story.
Yeah.
But this one being Batman the Killing Joke, it's Batman's relationship to the Joker, how they're two sides of the same coin and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
which is very interesting. I mean, they could have totally elaborated on that,
and you don't get it.
No.
You get the one conversation that they show in the trailer, and it's not even really with the Joker. You know what I mean? So it's very annoying.
Yeah. It's a definite missed opportunity.
Who wants to talk about the sex?
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Or about Batman and
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's probably
all right. So yeah, obviously
better.
They have sex on a rooftop.
They bump nasties.
And
they get on.
And public
Does he have
outcry.
condoms in the utility belt?
I think
I imagine he has a strong pull-out game.
Perhaps the wow. I was gonna go with the morning after pill, but like I thought like maybe his utility belt had
Long
Dude, he has those ninja reflexes.
Or like with the Batarang, like he can legitimately still bust inside and like be like, it circled your uterus and the ovaries, but like, I'm aiming to the sidewall, and it's not gonna go all the way down there. This got weird quick.
Wow, yeah, well, yeah. Sorry.
So did that scene though.
It's so out of left field.
It's like, wait, what? What just happened?
And like we alluded to before, I mean, it's again to be like, oh, Batman must really care about her. Well, yeah, they had as much care as a one-night stand where he doesn't talk to her for a week after. I mean,
right, and like they didn't really try to they didn't paint anything in a positive light in that regard.
And so that's as much as okay, not to get super in depth here, but I guess that's what we're supposed to do. You're ready for the old pixelosophy question, Days?
Shit.
No, so you have this 30-minute segment in which you have a villain, and this is what you reminded me of with the villain, who kind of fetishizes after her. I mean, he has sex with a hooker, making her wear a Batman mask or a Batgirl mask. Well, it doesn't specify. You never know. But you assume, yeah. So there's that. So she's having this weird relationship with the villain. Also, that she can show Batman, like, I'm strong, and even though he's doing this with me, and he's kind of using me, and he's very much objectifying me to belittle me. And you have her kind of overcome the sexualization of her by this villain, only then to essentially succumb to being sexualized by Batman. So what is the point of it then?
She sexualized him though.
Did she?
Yeah.
Because she's the one that's like
she kissed him first. Like
Batman is like,
so
whoa, wait.
she raped Batman?
No. They sexualized each other, but she broke that barrier.
That's why he didn't talk to her for a week. Because he's like, I was violated.
Damn, girl, damn. But no, that's what I'm saying though. But like, if we're saying that she was the sexual, okay, fine. Maybe in that instance, she initializes, But then, yeah, he backs off and cold shoulders her for a week. So, I mean, you get very
Total
much,
guy move, yeah.
Yeah, you get very much into this, like, cliched rom-com fucking segment.
Yeah.
That I'm just like...
Right.
You know, where I'm like, we have character empowerment, and we're using sexuality specifically to show character empowerment.
Right.
And then 5 minutes later, to me, I got the vibe that we took it away.
Yeah, you totally negated anything that you were trying to build there.
Only
Okay,
then
yeah.
to have her completely sexually demoralized another 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I don't get it. Like,
and that's
were
why
they just building her up more so that her fall came like even harder by the time the Joker got a hold of her?
Yeah, I mean,
if it did, it didn't work.
But her
'cause, I
fall,
mean,
but as you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about, like, the fall isn't about her necessarily. It's about, like,
right, because, like, at the end of the day, I don't care. Like, and it's not that I don't care. Obviously, something like that happens to anybody. Horrible. And obviously, her and Batman's relationship, unstable, and that's bad.
But that's not the focus of the theme.
In the context of this story, I don't care.
yeah, it's about Gordon
And the breaking of good men, and how much can you break them before they corrupt their own morals.
yeah. I mean, Joker's going after fucking Barbara to piss fucking Batman off. Obviously, I mean that's a huge blow to Batman, and obviously Gordon. Like you're really using her just as a device to really go after these two guys, and Bruce Timm's direction towards trying to focus it on Batgirl is kind of just misguided.
Again, I don't know if it's him just underestimating the attachment we already have for Barbara. You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
already have an attachment to Barbara. She's Batgirl. Like, you know? I mean,
She's Batgirl. She's Oracle. She's
right.
all
like
that.
even if you're a Ooh, I just touched your knee.
It's okay.
Are we
I liked
gonna have
it.
sex on a roof right now?
God willing.
Let me get another drink. No, but yeah, it's just one of those things where like there's just not enough there. It's underestimating the fact that like I already love Barbara because even if you're a even if you never saw older stuff and you just know her as Oracle,
Right.
you still care.
Yeah.
You know, if you never saw her in the suit, you still care about her because she's part of the Bat family. Especially
Absolutely.
with how much they've painted since the new 52. Well, and I know now they're on Rebirth and all this other bullshit. Because there's got to be 17 Supermans. Okay, I think there's 2, but whatever. Anyway,
17.
We're going to go with
17.
17.
Yeah.
It's that new math they're teaching. No, like, you know, how much they've painted, you know, Scott Snyder's run in the comics recently, how much they've painted it as a family dynamic.
Right.
You know, so you already care about her. Like, you know, and again, so it's like, I think it was just a misread on who you should have made this for.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the general audience.
Right. It was a misguided attempt to build a strong female character that ultimately amounts to very little in the grand scheme of it, and at the same time just fails at building that strong female character.
Yeah, because I mean, she's looking at Batman not as like this powerful dude. She's like, I just want to fuck this dude.
Right. I mean, it's a valiant effort, but at the same time, it's being written by fucking middle-aged guys. So there's always going to be that disconnect.
Yeah, it's unfortunate too, because this had the potential, obviously, to be something great. The source material is legend, you know, for Batman, and it just does not work.
And the problem is just that it misses. We don't get enough of the flavor of the source material.
Yeah. So somebody who's coming into this for the first time, like Alex, it's kind of disappointing in that regard.
Yeah. So instead of being something that great, it becomes something it's good. It's good.
It doesn't
it's
make
watchable.
you want to probably run out and read the book, does it?
Well, I said I want to read the book just because
But
I
of
want
your own
the
personal
pure.
curiosity.
I want the more pure experience.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, if anyone else, I don't think it's going to make them be like,
Right.
oh, let me read this.
Exactly.
And
let me read the comic that has the musical number in it.
and again, it just does suffer from coming out at the wrong time in our society right now. Where it maybe that's the reason they did kind of focus on Batgirl, because of our society is so like.
Oh no, I totally
agree
think
with
that's
that.
part of it.
I
But like
agree.
I said, it's misguided and just fails in its attempts.
We're pushing this social agenda right now in terms of like women empowerment. We had something with the woman, Ghostbusters, obviously, and all through our media and our political stances and social medias, it's all about women empowerment. So why don't we throw 30 minutes before a Killing Joke and make Barbara like this more important character and see what we can do there.
I mean, I don't have an issue with any sort of like women empowering. I just think one.
Well, I'm not saying that it's
You
an
could have.
issue, but I'm saying that this is
You're a misogynist pig. It's fine. But, no. I know. I'm kidding for anyone new listening to that. This is definitely not that. No, but it should have been maybe 10 to 15 minutes. I feel like they tried to do too much and it got boring, like you said. And excuse me, it didn't do its job. I mean, it just simply didn't do its job. And I feel like maybe they felt like they knew it wasn't doing its job, so we're like, well, let's add another 10 minutes. Let's see, we're going to go with quantity over quality. Right? If we keep this up for 30 minutes, they're
How
going to
many
get
times
the
can
cheap
she
important.
disobey Batman and go out on her own to hunt this person down?
And to not even do a good job of it.
To still have to be fucking saved by Batman in the end.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think they accomplished at all what it set out to.
If this was made 5 years ago, this would be that 30 minutes would be completely different. That first opening 30 minutes would be.
It might have just actually opened where the Killing Joke opened.
Yeah. This honestly would have been a completely different film.
I mean, okay. Here, let me just throw this out there, right? So, if this is supposed to be a story about Batman and Joker being the same, two different sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. Instead of spending, all this money making us care that Barbara got shot, we're not fucking monsters. If someone got shot and paralyzed, I care.
Right.
But the harder challenge is making us care about the Joker. And instead of it coming off as super empathetic and sympathetic, which you do, because it's like, what happens is terrible to him.
Even then, it's fast.
Exactly. Spend more time with that. Make shit up. If you want something to not follow that, show just how much and how tragic his origin is, and juxtapose that with how tragic Batman's origin is, and let those butt heads, so that you really drive home that point of these guys are kind of the same, and because of that, that's the whole impetus of the Joker's motivation for trying to do this to Gordon.
Which makes a lot more sense.
Joker had a bad day and it went one way. Batman had a bad day and it went the other. Let's see if I can manipulate that with this person and
flip that coin over to the other side.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just and the sad thing is how much it really how well Nolan accomplishes it with The Dark Knight. This is legitimately The Dark Knight done with different characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or kind of. It's not Gordon.
It's the same theme.
Dent is Gordon in this case.
Okay.
More or less. And he even talks about it. I'm going to take them and bring them down to our level. So that's very much more recognized in that,
right.
And it's done in a shorter fucking time span because it's all done in the latter portion of that movie, and it's done way more effectively. Yeah. And you didn't have to beat me over the head with how important the sacrifice of Maggie Gyllenhaal's character is. We get it, we knew it. They both liked her, so yeah, she's important. You know what I mean? So it's sad that a movie that was not The Killing Joke, but just took inspiration from it, did such a better job of encapsulating the theme.
Right. No, 100% agree. And that's the unfortunate part about this. What else? Is there anything else you guys want to talk about in spoilers?
The villain was stupid.
Yeah, the
first
villain was
part?
stupid.
Yeah,
Paris, France, or whatever.
Yeah, that
Paris,
was-
France.
God.
that was just pointless.
I mean, and it's like even the beginning line of the goddamn show is like, well, this isn't who I know. This isn't how you expected this to start, probably. And it's like
Oh,
It's
thanks
like
for
this-
setting it all up for us.
this.
Oh, the voiceover.
Yeah.
Yeah, this meta recognition of like.
They're just hanging the lampshade at it. Yeah.
Because they watched it in the first cut and like, this doesn't really work very well. All right, we'll throw a voiceover, a couple lines, and make it work as best as we can.
It's like, so you know who went to watch this, so much so that you put this line in here, and you kept it in there anyway. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say that line's a total admission of like how bad that beginning is, but a little bit. You could certainly make the case.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what else we got? Anything?
I'm good. I'm spent.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank
Bye.
you guys for having me. It was a good time.
Of course.
Yeah, man.
Hey, comment and maybe I'll come back if they're like, that asshole talked too much.
Thanks again. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.